A teenage girl who spent years being the least interesting sister in the Kardashian family, until one day she suddenly appeared completely transformed. Bigger lips, a new face, and millions of people became obsessed with trying to copy the exact same look, while others analyzed her appearance like it was a criminal investigation. A woman who built a billion-dollar cosmetics empire that now seems to be slowly falling apart. A hidden pregnancy that completely stopped the internet, not because of love, but because it became one of the most aggressive marketing moves of the decade. A girl who went from being the absolute queen of Instagram to someone now desperately trying not to become irrelevant. A complete image change to impress a new boyfriend who almost seems embarrassed by the world she comes from. And now, a rumor that could change everything. A supposed new pregnancy with Timothée Chalamet that many people see as Kris Jenner's last attempt to save a sinking ship. Kylie Jenner went from having nothing to having absolutely everything. And now, the algorithm is finally making her pay the price. An influencer capable of making an entire generation want to look exactly like her, even if nobody could fully explain why. A celebrity who seemed to live inside a permanent filter. Impossible cars, massive mansions, private jets, perfect photos.
All right! It's time!
A life designed specifically for social media. A woman who dominated Instagram for years like she was untouchable, until TikTok started making fun of her. And a figure who once defined the future of beauty, but who now seems to represent the exact opposite. An artificial aesthetic that people no longer want to consume the way they once did. Because Kylie Jenner didn't become famous for singing. She didn't become famous for acting. She didn't even become famous for having talent in the traditional sense. Kylie Jenner became famous for turning herself into the perfect face of an era obsessed with image. But the problem is, the internet changes very fast. And the same social media platforms that pushed her to the top now seem to be slowly pushing her back down. Because this isn't just the story of Kylie Jenner. It's the story of how an insecure girl became the most influential beauty experiment the internet has ever seen. This is behind the icon, and this is the story of how Kylie Jenner went from becoming the perfect face of the internet to slowly losing the aura that once made her untouchable. Kylie Jenner was never supposed to be the star of the family. In the early seasons of the reality show, she was almost part of the background. The teenager who appeared for a few seconds while everything revolved around her sisters. Kim dominated magazine covers. Khloe had the personality. Kourtney brought the chaos. And Kendall was already starting to become a model. Kylie was just there. And the bigger the Kardashian empire became, the more she seemed left out of it. The internet noticed too. The comments were brutal. People said she didn't have the Kardashian gene, that she was the least interesting one. The most ordinary, the least photogenic.
We're gonna be like, oh my God, you're right. You're like the coolest in the family because you model when you're 14.
That is not very nice.
And growing up inside that family came with a huge problem. In the Kardashian world, being normal means disappearing. While the cameras followed her sisters, Kylie quietly watched everything. How people reacted, how a media personality was built, how Kris Jenner could turn literally anything into attention.
When I first heard about Kim's tape, as her mother, I wanted to her. But as her manager, I knew that I had a job to do.
And she probably realized something very quickly. If she wanted the world to look at her, she had to become impossible to ignore. Then something started to change. At first the changes were small, then suddenly, the entire internet started talking about her face. And for the first time in her life, Kylie Jenner was no longer invisible. But eventually, there was something that became impossible to hide. The comparisons between the Jenner sisters. As they grew up in front of the cameras on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Kendall and Kylie started developing in completely different ways. Kendall fit perfectly into the fashion world. Tall, thin, quiet, built like a runway model. Everything about her seemed naturally aligned with the industry. And very quickly, the castings, campaigns, and runway shows started coming. Kylie, on the other hand, seemed lost inside her own image, more insecure, more emotional, more uncomfortable in front of the cameras. And the more Kendall grew into that world, the more obvious the contrast became. The internet constantly talked about their differences. The comments were brutal. People said Kylie was the unattractive one, that she didn't have the Kardashian gene, that she looked like the sister who didn't belong in a family obsessed with perfection. And growing up in that environment only made everything worse, because in the Kardashian universe, image wasn't just important, it was power. While Kendall was trying to build a traditional modeling career, Kylie started realizing something else. Maybe she was never going to dominate the runway world, but she could dominate the internet. And that's when the real transformation began. First, small changes, then different photos, new poses, a completely different aesthetic, until one day, the entire internet started talking about her face. And for the first time in her life, Kylie Jenner was no longer invisible. But before we continue, it's worth looking at 3 specific moments where Kylie Jenner was both incredibly smart and deeply out of touch. First, the silence strategy. During her pregnancy, Kylie didn't just disappear from social media. According to reports, staff members, doctors, friends, everyone around her was forced to sign extremely strict non-disclosure agreements with massive financial penalties. Not a single photo leaked for 9 months. The secret wasn't just privacy, it was the product. Second, the Forbes scandal. Forbes named Kylie Jenner the youngest self-made billionaire in the world, but years later, the story exploded into controversy after reports claimed the Jenner family had allegedly provided inflated financial documents. She wasn't really a billionaire, at least not in the way the public had been led to believe. For many people, the entire image was less about business and more about public relations designed to sell the myth of success. And third, the private jet. Her $72 million jet, nicknamed Kylie Air, became the ultimate symbol of luxury and excess. But very quickly, it also became one of her biggest PR disasters. She was heavily criticized after reports revealed she was taking flights that lasted only around 12 minutes, simply to avoid traffic. And for a lot of people, it exposed something uncomfortable. A level of wealth and disconnection so extreme that even many fans started turning against her. And then came Kylie Cosmetics, lip kits, limited editions, product launches that sold out within minutes. The website crashed constantly, resale prices exploded, and millions of teenage girls were chasing the exact same look. But Kylie Jenner wasn't really selling makeup. She was selling transformation, the idea that you too could fix your insecurities and get a little closer to the perfect image dominating Instagram.
I'm obsessed with this Kylie Cosmetics lip butter, and I swear it's not because she's my sister. Like, this is really nice.
This is the Kylie Cosmetics Stormy palette. She doesn't make it anymore. Stormy really did something with this palette.
And it worked better than anyone could have imagined. Within just a few years, Kylie went from being the younger sister to becoming a money-making machine. Forbes started calling her the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. And for a while, it genuinely felt like everything she touched turned into success. Impossible cars, massive mansions, private jets.
Kylie, how many cars are in your driveway and which ones cost the most?
First up is my Bugatti Chiron Sport, about $3.5 million, and the LaFerrari Aperta, roughly $1.5 million, my loud Italian statement. After that comes the Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster at around $600,000. There's also the Rolls-Royce Cullinan Black Badge at $450,000. Next, the Ferrari 488 Spider, just under $300,000.
Perfectly edited photos, a life designed specifically for the internet. But the more perfect her image became, the more artificial it started to feel. And slowly, something began to crack. And then, at the absolute peak of her relevance, Kylie Jenner disappeared. In a world where celebrities share everything, she did the exact opposite. Complete silence. For months, nobody knew where she was. No public appearances, no full photos, no explanations. And instantly, the internet exploded. Rumors, theories, blurry photos, videos analyzed frame by frame. Everyone was asking the exact same question. Was Kylie Jenner pregnant? And the most incredible part, nobody managed to leak it. According to reports, people close to Kylie had signed extremely strict confidentiality agreements because the secrecy itself had become part of the product. And the less she appeared, the stronger the obsession became. Until finally, the famous video announcing Stormy's birth was released. And once again, the internet exploded because Kylie had managed to do something extremely rare for that era. She turned mystery into a global event. And honestly, that was probably the moment when her aura was at its absolute strongest. She no longer had to chase attention. The entire world was chasing her. But before we continue, there are 3 more moments that showed something was starting to go wrong. First, the failure of Kai. Her clothing brand faced heavy criticism before it even launched. Independent designers accused the company of copying their work, and once the products finally reached customers, people destroyed the brand online over the poor quality of the clothing. For the first time in years, KYLIE's name alone wasn't enough to instantly sell out a launch. Second, the Met Gala moment. A viral video showed KYLIE walking alone and visibly uncomfortable while other celebrities around her were interacting naturally with each other. And online, people immediately noticed something different. The magnetism that once made her stop traffic suddenly didn't feel as powerful anymore. For the first time, she looked less like the center of attention. And third, the sale. KYLIE sold 51% of her company to a massive conglomerate for around $600 million. And for many industry analysts, that move said everything. They believed KYLIE and Kris Jenner understood the brand had already reached its peak and decided to cash out before public interest started collapsing completely. At the same time, another problem was growing fast: TikTok. A new generation started making fun of the Kardashian aesthetic. What once looked aspirational suddenly started feeling outdated, artificial, and overproduced. And for the first time in a very long time, Kylie Jenner no longer seemed to control the narrative on the internet.
Interesting, because it's like, you're a billionaire, girl. Like, why are you reviewing lip kits in your car when you live in a multi-million-dollar home? The phone drop was kind of cringy. They have to find these people that have gotten popularity from being somewhat normal.
And maybe the hardest part was realizing that the perfect character was starting to wear out. KYLIE Cosmetics no longer created the same level of impact. New launches weren't exploding the way they used to, and other projects were starting to fail. And for the first time, her name alone was no longer enough to guarantee success. But then came an even stranger shift: Timothée Chalamet. A relationship completely different from anything Kylie Jenner had publicly shown before, and suddenly, her image changed again. Less makeup, more quiet luxury, a much softer and more understated aesthetic. And for many fans, it didn't feel authentic. It felt adaptive, like Kylie was trying to become a different person in order to fit into a completely different world. And when someone spends years building a perfectly controlled image, any drastic change starts to feel strange. Today, Kylie Jenner is still famous. She still has millions of followers, millions of dollars, and an enormous level of exposure. But something changed. She no longer dominates the conversation the way she once did. Her posts create less impact. Her products no longer cause the same level of obsession. And now, trends are born on TikTok, long before they ever reach the Kardashians. The internet changed too. Extreme perfection started to feel exhausting. People began looking for something more real, more spontaneous, less manufactured. And Kylie Jenner spent years building the exact opposite. And now, new rumors are starting to appear again. Another possible pregnancy, another major announcement, another wave of mystery. And for many people, the feeling is unavoidable. Is it a coincidence? Or is it just the Kardashian formula working one more time?
You don't mess with my family, and you definitely don't mess with my business.
Because Kris Jenner understood something very important a long time ago. When attention starts to fade, you create a new event. And maybe that's the biggest contradiction in Kylie Jenner's story. She built an entire empire around her image, but now she almost seems trapped inside it. The girl who once defined what was considered cool on the internet now seems to be chasing the same level of impact she once had naturally. Kylie Jenner spent years building the perfect image for the internet. And for a while, it worked better than anyone could have imagined. Millions of people wanted to look like her, dress like her, live like her, but the internet never stands still. Trends change, beauty standards change, and obsessions change too. Because Kylie Jenner didn't lose fame, she didn't lose money, and she didn't completely lose relevance either. What she slowly started losing was the mystery and the aura that once made her the center of the internet for years. This is Behind the Icon, and this is the story of how Kylie Jenner went from becoming the perfect face of the digital universe to slowly losing the mystique that once made her untouchable. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, subscribe to the channel and let us know what story you'd like us to explore next. Because behind every public figure, there's always something more, and there's always a story worth telling.